Sponsorship for Frontiers with Rhonda McBride is provided by YUPIK Corporation and Spenard Builders Supply. Alaska, where there are old triumphs, but also new frontiers, with challenges as great as the state itself, but a belief the best is yet to come, bringing you the faces, the places, and the spirit of the last frontier. This is Frontiers with Rhonda McBride.
Welcome to Frontiers. I'm Rhonda McBride, and in this program we look at saving Alaska's native languages. It's a wide open frontier, but the battles are not the same for everyone. First, we start with Inupiat, spoken in Alaska's northernmost communities, where language erosion over the last few generations has begun to take its toll. Today, only about a fifth of all Inupiats speak their native language. And Emily Carlson, who traveled to Katzeek and Kaktovik, found those who say, enough is enough, no more.
That's right, Rhonda, no more. The name Inupiat means real or genuine person, and people genuinely feel the threat to their language is real. Alaska is home to about 13,000 Inupiats. The Alaska Native Language Center in Fairbanks says just 3,000 speak the language. Most of them are over the age of 40. But teachers in Katzeek and Kaktovik say the language's best hope lies with the young.
Teaching 3-year-olds is tough. Try adding in a whole new language. Sprinkle in long, complicated words.
Their attention span is very short.
And a 3-minute lesson can be a daunting feat.
They want to play. I can't keep them very long to keep still and sit down.
But Esther Davidovics has what seems like endless patience when she's teaching Inupiat. That's because she's passing down her ancestors' language. It's a labor of love.
It's my first language, and I was willing to keep it up. It was taught to me by my aunts and uncles, my parents, grandparents.
The 65-year-old is one of just a handful of Inupiat speakers left in Katzeek. She's afraid without dedicated teachers like herself, the Inupiat language could be silenced.
When I saw that they needed help here, I thought I'd volunteer.
1,500 miles northeast in Kaktovik, similar concerns from a different generation. 28-year-old Inupiat teacher Flora Rexford sees the language slipping away right in front of her eyes.
A lot of the younger generation don't speak it or use it, or they'll use broken English.
Flora grew up in Kaktovik, but moved away to the big city for college. But she always missed home, and when the Inupiat teacher here at the Harold Kavaluk School retired a few years ago, Flora felt it was fate and her ancestors stepping in.
And it's a part of you, who you are, and without it, I think you lose your, cultural identity.
When Flora got the job, she didn't speak fluent Inupiat, so she hit the books.
Greetings, good morning.
And now uses a modern medium to pass down the ancient language of her ancestors. She posts everything from the word of the day.
Just cut them all down, find the bone.
To the art of preparing a goose.
All that I've known, or what my parents and grandparents have taught me, I pass it on to kids who don't have that opportunity or chance that I did.
Flora's mom, Marie, grew up speaking Inupiat, but in grade school was forced to speak English.
And I used to always get hit on my hand with a ruler, really hard. Those rulers hurt. Look.
Since then, Marie mostly converses in English.
Another postcard?
Even with other Inupiat speakers. When I asked her what language she speaks at home with her husband, Marie hung her head, her voice filled with sadness.
English. 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 Sad. I try to have him speak Inupiat, and then we just go right back to English.
The fear that her culture is drowning amidst American technology is real. So real, Marie quickly runs through the Inupiat alphabet to make sure she remembers. Back in Katzeek at Esther Davidovics school, that fear is why the only language allowed at school is Inupiat.
All the time, and when we do have to speak English, we whisper amongst each other, amongst the teachers.
Janine Sato is the director here at the only private Inupiat immersion school in the country.
Katzeek school.
Janine says it shouldn't be difficult for Alaskans to sound out Inupiat words.
It's hard to pronounce, it's hard to speak the language, right?
But time and technology are taking its toll.
Because it's hard to come up with new words like computer or iPad or even a cell phone, in our language. So when we have to incorporate those English terminology in our everyday use.
The model is simple. Dedicated, experienced teachers like Esther reaching small groups of kids at a very early age. In Kaktovik, a different approach. A millennial using social media as a tool to inspire teens. Their methods may be generations apart, but their desire to save their language and their culture comes from the same place, the heart.
The Nakatcho Alasigveg School in Katzeek currently has 15 students, but they have a capacity for 20 and a waiting list, but they need teachers. They currently have 2 openings for Inupiat language teachers, Rhonda.
So, Emily, how do they fix that? How do they get those teachers?
It's really frustrating. They've gone through all the traditional routes to try to get those teachers. Now they're going to the community colleges, recruiting teachers any way they can. The teachers are growing older, and there's the fear that there's not enough younger teachers. So right now there is no solution.
So what are some of the other problems involved?
Well, you heard the cell phone issue. There's so much technology out there that students go home and they're worried that they're on their cell phones and their computers, and they're not learning, they're not excited about the language like they used to be.
So do young people have a desire, despite all the technology, do you see this desire to learn the language?
Well, that's why Flora's on Facebook. She's using modern technology to get the kids excited again, and she wants them to really speak it at home too. It's disappearing from houses too, so as much as parents can speak it and grandparents, to get the kids excited about speaking the language.
Family is always the key. Thank you, Emily. Sounds like you had a great trip today. Well, as you just saw in many communities, the experts on native language are the elders. Coming up, we introduce you to David Katzeek, who is on the front lines of saving Tlingit and Juneau. And when David speaks, children listen. Most of us take language for granted, but imagine if English was on the verge of extinction, words that allow us to share our deepest thoughts and feelings, lost forever. Well, that's how David Katzeek feels about Tlingit. He says language is the glue that holds a community together.
The name is Ankh, the place of the small lake. But that word, that sound at the end of the word Ankh, indicates an intimacy.
An intimacy with the land. David Katzeek experiences when he speaks Tlingit.
You are a human being, and being human means you are very intelligent.
Words David said he heard when he lived with his grandparents in Klawak. David was groomed by grandparents on both sides to be a clan leader, reminded often that human intelligence is a gift to be used for the good of the community. Today in Juneau, you can find a few traces of the rich culture that thrived for thousands of years. But there are bridges to that world time almost forgot, bridges being built every day by elders determined their language will not die with them. What you're hearing is rare, a conversation in Tlingit carried on by two fluent speakers. There are fewer than 120 people on the entire planet who can do this.
Oh, that's good. That's good. I'll do the same.
Selena Everson and David Katzeek are among a group of elders working to pass Tlingit on to the next generation. Selena says working with David helps her remember.
The stories I knew I forgot completely. I think when we were forbidden to speak our language, I wiped that out of my mind.
When Selena was 14, she was sent to the Sheldon Jackson School in Sitka, where she knew her older brothers had been punished for talking in Tlingit, so she stopped speaking her language completely.
You know, I get stuck on words because I didn't speak it. I didn't even teach my own children, and I feel bad about it.
She'll say a word that will bring out of me other words that I have heard. And sometimes it's just like a joy because it's like all of a sudden, like a fish jumping out of the water.
Language and culture. Medicine dispensed generously here at Harborview Elementary, healing old hurts and fortifying the young with words from David's childhood.
Most precious, noble child of the earth. This is the way the ancient ones spoke. Say,
Yes, it's true, says David in Tlingit. Thank you from our innermost being.
Say thank you in our language. Gunashish.
David is grateful his language is once again heard in Tlingit country, the sounds of young, proud voices. Only a generation ago, teachers tried to shame children into silence.
Whoever was speaking the Tlingit language, they would have to stand like this and hold the rock.
David was 8 when a teacher made him hold rocks, but he used his imagination to cope.
I said, I wonder what the rocks would tell the history about this people. How would the rocks tell us what happened in this area? They would tell great stories. I made a game out of it, as opposed to feeling like I was being punished. I never looked at it as being punished. I knew why they were doing it, but I was taught what you do and what other people do doesn't have anything to do with who I am. It has everything to do with who you are.
David says the tide has turned on Tlingit, and while the waves may die, the water remains, like language.
We're coming through a famine right now. There's a hunger such as we have never experienced in all the years of our lives. It's not a hunger for food,
but a hunger for language and culture.
Yandakin. Yes. Yes. Oh, you're a storyteller and a half already. The fact that you said Raven was flying really high.
As David tells a story about how Raven stole a fish right out of another bird's mouth, the children follow closely.
You can be hungry like Raven to get all kinds of knowledge.
David enjoys feeding these hungry birds here at Harborview, so much so he volunteers every Monday.
Can you hear it? our language is calling out to us, saying, Ya Duchat, Ya Duchat, here I am, here I am. And we're answering the call. And in answering the call, we're not hoarding it to ourselves, we're giving it away. And that's the only way anything comes back.
Now, one of the things David, Katzeek, and other elders in Southeast Alaska do, they mentor teachers and other adults. The University of Southeast Alaska and Sea Alaska, as well as Gold Belt Heritage Foundations, have been a big part of this, instrumental in rescuing Tlingit from the brink. And Native language and culture in Southeast Alaska is about to get a huge boost with the opening of the Walter Soboleff Center next Friday in Juneau. An entire day of ceremonies and celebration are planned. Dr. Walter Soboleff was another elder who made a difference embracing Tlingit in a time of segregation. Now, he lived to be 102. Well, joining us is another native language speaker who has made a difference, Loddie Jones. Loddie Ayaprun Jones. She is a kindergarten teacher at the YUPIK Immersion School in Bethel, and we want to thank you for coming all the way from Bethel to be with us, Loddie. First of all, I think people are surprised that someone your age is teaching kindergarten. How old are you?
I'm 67, going on 68. Wow.
Now, how long have you been teaching?
When I first started teaching in Bethel, it was 1972-73.
Wow, that's a lot of years.
And the school that I'm in was a K-12 building.
And so now there's a school entirely devoted to the YUPIK immersion program. Can you tell us a little bit about how that works? When we say immersion, do the kids only speak YUPIK?
An immersion school is where students are taught in their L2 language. That's language 2. Like if the students come in speaking only English, then they're taught in YUPIK. So a lot of students in Bethel come in to our school speaking only English.
Only
a few
English.
of them
might
be first YUPIK speakers.
Well, Bethel is a community that has a mix of natives and non-natives, so I imagine it'd be hard to keep your language there. So what made you decide to teach YUPIK?
Back then, I was determined to go to school. I think I was in 7th grade, and my older sister got promoted from 8th grade, and so my mom said, I don't want her to go to a parochial school in St. Mary's all by herself. So she told me to go with her. So I said yes, and lo and behold, she didn't get accepted, but I did. So it was hard leaving Scaven Bay at 13 years old.
To go to school in St. Mary's. Now, but how has your mother been an inspiration in your decision to teach YUPIK immersion?
Well, after St. Mary's, I graduated in '67. I decided to go to college right away because none of my older sisters ever graduated from high school or college. So I went to college. But before I left, God, her words never left me. She told me in YUPIK, Gassani school lachik sakoten. Gassatun lichik sakoten. Yuchin nasuyagut kayakonak. Meaning, you might be going to an English school, you might be taught in the Western school, but never forget your roots or who you are, or even your language.
Now, she was getting worried that the younger generation was losing the language.
I think her pet peeve, you know, having spent a lot of time with her, was a lot of her grandchildren didn't speak or understand YUPIK. He say, Tutkakan kas taking YUPIK takan chtulu ke kannat nawan ka meaning I need to get a translator to communicate with my own grandchildren.
That's tough.
So when I think of that, I want to do this in her memory to really push the YUPIK language.
And you do that every day at the Ayaprun school, which has your name. It's named for you. Now, how did you get the name Loddie Jones? Loddie.
My baptismal name is Ledwina. So I went to school at St. Mary's, and back then there was a comic character named Little Lotta, and she was a chubby little girl. And of course, some of those boys, those high school boys, start calling me, hi, Little Lotta, hi, Little Lotta. And during the early 60s, a song came called, Hey, Loddie, Loddie, Loddie. That same boy who called me Little Lotta started singing that song to me, and the name stuck. So I went home one year, and my mom said, Ayaprun kitan at hachimingok, meaning Loddie's been gone so long from home that even her name has changed.
Well, Goyana, Loddie, unfortunately, we've run out of time, but we want to thank you for being here with us, and we want to let our viewers know if you want to learn more about teaching YUPIK immersion in Bethel, that we have a web extra posted on our website, and we'll have more of Dean Swope's photos of her kindergarten class. So look for them on the Frontier section of KTVA.com. When we come back, a culmination of culture. Students at the Alaska Native Charter School wrap up the year with hands-on learning. Dancing, drumming, beading, and more. Culture Week at the Alaska Native Charter School. Students worked with Alaska Native artists on a variety of projects, a chance for some hands-on experience, reinforcing all the things they studied during the year. And to name a few, gathering birch from trees to make baskets, learning about traditional foods, as well as the art of beading.
This class is making unangach agadas. It's a Aleut sun. We call it a sun because it represents the sun, and that's what gives everything life.
Boy, that's beautiful. The hope here at the Alaska Native Charter School to give children an appreciation of their own traditional culture as well as others. So go to the Frontier section of KTVA.com to see a photo gallery of Culture Week. Well, next week we take you to Shageluk to focus on bison. You'll remember that Alaska Fish and Game led about 100 wood bison to their new home in Shageluk earlier this winter. It was one of the last steps in a 20-year journey, and the community was there to welcome the bison back. They greeted them with excitement, anticipation, and hope.
This will be their permanent home.
I know. Can you believe that? Yeah. I can't believe that. That's crazy.
Maybe tourists will be coming in and, for economic opportunities.
We'll hear more from the community of Shageluk and give you an update on how the bison relocation is going next week on Frontiers, something we can all look forward to. Well, we want to thank you for joining us, and from all of us at KTVA, may you find your own frontier.